My earliest memory of nature was stomping ants in the playground. No.
I did have a moment when a spider dropped on me. When I was like, ah! The railings is the place. Right. You will usually find a huge number of different types of insects. And then you've got the spiders going, okay, a buffet for me. Right?
I was looking through like each hole of a leaf and just make sure that none of them was plugged in with the spider in it. We have this group and we try to identify all spider species in Hong Kong. It's a lifetime hobby, I guess.
I'm actually a lawyer. The reason I fell in love with jumping spiders was because I'm taking a photo of one, and one of them looked at me and it did a head tilt. I was like, that is so adorable.
Their front eyes are so big. The big eyes, they're kind of like animation characters.
Yes.
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Biodiversity Explorers. Today we're going to take a closer look at a small creature that you may sometimes unexpectedly find in your house, which is spiders. So joining us on this fascinating journey are two experts who spent countless hours observing and studying these eight-legged creatures, Sasha Haldane and Marco Chan. So welcome Sasha and Marco.
Hello. Thank you so much.
How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Great.
Many of our viewers might not know who you are, so could you both just briefly introduce yourselves and kind of what you do professionally?
Hello, my name is Marco. I'm currently a research assistant at the Insects Biogeography and Biodiversity Lab. We have mixed up the two, but yeah, it's still IBBL for sure. My duties are I'm helping a PhD student called Matt Hamer on a project on sampling ant communities across Southeast Asia. So I'm popping in and out of Hong Kong quite a lot, and then doing lots of traveling and going to these places to collect ants and just see how the species diversity changes across the latitude and across vegetation types. And in my off time, I just study spiders. I like photographing spiders. I study spiders. And some friends and I, we have this group and we try to identify all spider species in Hong Kong. It's my off-time hobby, I guess.
That's a pretty big hobby.
That's why we have 5 of us doing it, because it is a lot of work.
Okay, so what about Sasha?
Hi, I'm Sasha Haldane. So I'm actually not a scientist per se. I'm actually a lawyer. Originally, I was a criminal lawyer, and I still teach part-time at Hong Kong U. But I became very interested in spiders, jumping spiders, and photography. So I spend a lot of time basically out in the country parks, photographing everything that I can see. But I'm particularly interested in the jumping spider species, which is how I came to know Marco as well. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you both first met? Because from what I hear, the background is pretty different.
So I was photographing jumping spiders during COVID. Well, it began during a time where, like the Hungry Ghost Festival, my parents wouldn't let me out at night, so I had to focus during daytime. I was photographing jumping spiders. We were in this group called, this Facebook group called Bug City Hong Kong 2.
Bug City 2
Hong Kong 2. And then I saw her photos, and those are species that I had never come across, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm interested. Where do you find them? And then we went out for a session, I think, in her local patch. And then we began to know each other a bit more and started going out, doing more field sessions and looking for spiders.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had photographed new species, or
no? It's just it's not rare, but it's not common.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't know where to find it. So I was coming across it on a fairly regular basis. So I had a number of people who were quite interested in also seeing it, including Marco.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you both were kind of a part of this big group community of spider lovers, I'm guessing.
Well, it's like Bug City is basically, it's the English-speaking Facebook page to help people identify insects and for people to publish their insect photos. Okay. So, and actually we are now both, as time has gone on, we're now both administrators on that particular page.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we've gone from being newbie posters to the administration teams.
I wanted to ask a little bit more on Sasha as well, like, because you don't do this as like a full-time. So was it ever hard for you to kind of balance your time?
Well, I started photographing essentially during COVID because I'd been lost for what to do because I didn't want to wear the face mask down in the shopping malls, and I liked hiking a lot, right? So I basically went hiking, and I found a purpose to the hiking when we were doing the City Nature Challenge, which is run by iNaturalist. It's a big event every April where you photograph everything that you can see within the space of 4 days and basically try and get it all identified, and it's kind of like a city competition. And so when that stopped, I wanted to keep on going. So I kept on going. And then basically, because I was finding some interesting species, people were asking me to get a better camera than my phone. I started out with my phone, and then I moved to an Olympus TG6, and then I moved to a big Olympus camera, basically because my passion just continued, and it hasn't stopped. I still go out quite a lot during the week. And this kind of coincided with me retiring from practice, but just doing some teaching at university. So during the teaching time, it can be a little bit difficult to balance, but I still, because I'm passionate about it, I still make the time to do it.
Especially you're willing to invest in the Olympus camera as well.
That's right. Once I'd made the investment in the camera, I really wanted to keep on.
You have to keep doing it by then.
There's a saying that once you get into photography, it's very difficult to get out of it.
Yes.
So you just keep investing.
And because you're never satisfied with your photos, right? You always think there's going to be a better photo that you can take out there. So it's kind of like a drive to keep on going. As I was photographing, of course, I was becoming really interested in what I was photographing, and I wanted to know a lot more about them. So I started basically reading papers and, asking questions from people about what I was seeing. Now I have a fairly good knowledge of the jumping spider population and general spider population to some extent as well in Hong Kong, as well as various other species, I think.
I can tell photography is a really big part of your exploration in nature. We heard from Sasha just now that you slowly developed it as well, but what about you, Marco? Were you always a photographer, or did you fall in love with spiders first, or were you into photography first?
I guess it both happened at the same time. I started way back in secondary school. It was one lunchtime. I went to the back of the school, and our school kind of intersects at the foot of the mountain a bit. So we do get a little bit patch of green behind our school. And I just saw this guy with a mantis on his hand. And I was like, wow, I had never seen, I never knew you had something like that in Hong Kong. And I got to chat with him. His name is Arnold. And he's now a really good friend of mine. And we started to look for more insects, and then we wanted to try to document every bit of wildlife we see in our school. It started with the phone as well. And then later on in secondary 5, I was lucky enough to be part of a trip to Madagascar, and I thought, wow, I needed a big camera now. I didn't want to go there and come back with my photos and be like, darn. I bought a camera. I bought an Olympus camera. It progressed until COVID, where later I got into spiders a lot more. Got to talk to Sasha and Colin a bit more. And there was this other program training university students to learn about spiders, and then helping secondary school students on a survey. So I got to join that program. I got to learn about spiders even more. And as I learned, I think my motivation is the same as Sasha, is I wanted to know what I was photographing, and at the same time I wanted to show people that these things do exist in Hong Kong.
Yes.
And they're not just a brown, ugly, furry, 8-legged creature.
Yeah.
I guess that's mostly people's perception of them. And sometimes they have very interesting behaviours as well.
Yes.
So I thought I wanted to show just such a different side of biodiversity in Hong Kong. It's not just the birds, the dolphins. Well, dolphins are good, but it's not just that. These little things do exist in Hong Kong, and they're absolutely beautiful.
Were there any childhood experiences that kickstarted your love for nature just in general?
It's a little more difficult for me to remember my childhood.
Or maybe just your earliest memory.
I think the earlier, I actually started off being most fascinated by underwater stuff. With snorkeling and things like that. And actually, when I was old enough to afford to do it, I actually got my scuba diving instructor's qualification. And actually spent a huge amount of time underwater, and I used to know huge numbers of species. But when I had kids, it became much trickier to continue scuba diving. I was able to divert my my tendencies towards land-based creatures instead. So I think the Kickstarter was to some extent what was underwater and how much amazing stuff was underwater, and that's always been something like I've always wanted to snorkel, I've always wanted to dive, but when that's not possible, then I've been diverted to what is on the surface. And, it's not until you look a lot closer that you realize how much biodiversity there is here.
And I think it's probably a lot easier to bring your kids to like a walk than scuba diving.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nowadays, my kids basically are just like hanging around right, on the walks going, have you finished? I have tried to get them interested, and sometimes they will come out and do some shots with their phones as well. But in general, as they've got older, it's got easier for me to get out and do things as well. Yeah.
What about you, Marco? What's your earliest memory with nature?
My earliest memory of nature was stomping ants in the playground. So a big contradiction to my current job. That was my first physical interaction with nature. But then as a kid, my parents, instead of buying cartoons and animated movies, they decided it was a good idea to buy me Sir David Attenborough documentaries as a kid. So while everybody was watching that, I was watching Blue Planet. I was watching Walking with Beasts as well, and then several other programs by David Attenborough. That was my first. How do I put it? My first view into nature, and I thought wow, this is really, really beautiful. And how I got from Blue Planet to spiders, I'm not too sure. But I did fall in love with nature during my childhood years. But I didn't really know what was out there in Hong Kong. I thought Hong Kong, what I saw in those documentaries we had in Hong Kong. So the idea,
there was nothing.
Yeah. So the idea of Hong Kong's biodiversity wasn't fully there. It was a bit of a misconception that I had. And it was during secondary school that reignited that passion towards animals, because it was stagnant for a long time. I had forgotten about it. And then the fact that I got to explore the back trail of my school every single day, that really reinvigorated everything.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I've also watched a lot of nature documentaries as a kid, and you do find it quite misleading in the way that we don't have zebras or lions in Hong Kong, so we don't have that much biodiversity. That's sometimes what people might think.
Well, that's why I'm actually really happy that we're starting to get a lot more programs about Hong Kong biodiversity coming out. I mean, I have to say also, one of the reasons why I realized there was stuff in Hong Kong was a photographer called Robert Ferguson, who I went along to one of his photo exhibitions, and I was looking at photos of lantern bugs, and I couldn't believe that these existed, first of all, because they're such odd looking insects. But also I was thinking, how is it that I've got to my age and not realized that these were in Hong Kong? And then he told me where some were situated, and I went and found them, and I was like, whoa. Okay. This is how they are. When you realize they're there, they're so obvious, but until you know they're there, you don't see them.
Quite a big insect as well.
And they're quite big and they're quite colourful, but they actually do blend in quite nicely from a distance. So that was an amazing realization that I came to. Once you start looking, you will start to realize how much there is there. I mean, it's a matter of actually just actively looking for things. And then you realize that actually the country parks, the trees, the catchwater railings, everything is humming with insects. There's so much out there. Yeah.
Talking about spiders, which is how you both met. A lot of people, when they hear spiders, they might not understand why you love them. As you talked about that kind of misconception of just being dull and brownish in color and maybe furry. And some people actually might even be kind of scared of them, or they might fear them. I've heard a few different versions of why they're scared of them. Some say that they're scared their bites are venomous, and then some just don't really like how they have 8 legs and they kind of move kind of unpredictably. But I've also found that a lot of people don't really know kind of why they're scared of spiders. They just generally have that feeling of dislike and want to keep their distance with them. So were you ever scared of spiders ever in your life?
I did have a moment when a spider dropped on me. when I was in the bathroom.
Oh.
And that,
Oh.
that was a moment where I was like, oh! That was because it was unexpected.
Yeah.
And I did actually then gather up the spider and take it outside. So. But this was before I became passionate about spiders.
Yeah.
But yes, actually it fell straight in my lap.
Oh.
I was like, oh!
The big one.
It was a big one.
Oh,
It was
wow.
a big one. I do not know how it fell either,
Oh.
because normally they're so good at holding on to things.
It was a sign.
It
That's
was
how
a sign. It was like it came from the heavens and said to me, "Okay, this is what you should now be interested in."
It's your time to start looking at them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Marco?
I don't think I was ever afraid of spiders. Well, first of all, I hadn't really interacted with them before secondary school, and second of all, I guess just watching all those documentaries, and because David Attenborough explains so eloquently what they are and what they do, I think that already mitigated a lot of the fears that I had for these animals. But I understand some people do have like a rational fear, arachnophobia, and that's understandable. But I feel like it also stems from there's a couple of species that are really dangerous. So the spiders in Australia, the black widows, those are and those get on the headlines more. And so people generally they see somebody got bit by a spider, was in a hospital or died, and they'll be like, this is a warning sign, like we should stay away from these. But that's just one or just a handful of species amongst tens and thousands and millions of spiders around the world. So they only see, it's not their fault really. I'm not really blaming the media, but then sometimes
No, I'm blaming the media. I think the media definitely hypes up. Oh, look at this enormous spider! How scary is it?
Sometimes they do use like very exaggerated headlines and stuff.
Yes.
And that really bumps up the fear level of people. I mean, I did see some news when I was a kid, but then I didn't think they were like out to hurt me or out to hurt people or anything.
I think it's also generational. I mean, okay, so yesterday I'm at a site with someone else and the father was saying, "Oh my God, there are wasps here, kids. You need to move away from here. Run away." And the person I was with, we were running towards because we were thinking, "Oh, that looks like an interesting species. I wonder if we can get some shots of it." And I really actually wanted to say to that dad, they're actually not a problem. If the kids just move around them, you don't need to run away from them because they won't attack you if you're not sort of going towards their what they're doing. So, and I think that's the same with spiders. I mean, people get told by people who are older than them that spiders are scary, and it just carries on through. Yeah.
So it is a kind of taught and learned behavior.
Yes, it is. I think. I mean, I do think like sometimes the whole 8 leg thing kind of. I think possibly that does. It's a difficult thing for some people to overcome. But I think just the idea that they're going to harm you as soon as that you see one is taught.
When you think about it, it is kind of funny because we are like so many times bigger than these animals, and like. If you put yourself in the spider's position and you see something that huge, I think the first response would be kind of to run away or stay away from a human.
Yeah, it depends on which spider species it is, because it actually, for a lot of the jumping spiders, they're quite curious. So, in fact, the reason I fell in love with jumping spiders was because I'm taking a photo of one for the CNC that year, and one of them looked at me and it did a head tilt. Now, I now know that the head tilt is because they can't focus easily sometimes, and so they need to tilt their head to get the focus. But at the time, I was like, that is so adorable. That's like a little puppy dog, right? So I was like, this is super cute, and that was basically where my interest started, was looking at this little head tilt spider. For a lot of spiders, yes, they will run for it. Even the bigger ones will generally run for it. But actually, quite often, the jumping spiders will be like, okay, can I just have a look at this? Can I do some investigation?
I think on your Instagram, Marco, that you mentioned like jumping spiders was one of the first kind of group of spiders that you were most interested in, and they you described them as having kind of a interesting personality. So what do you mean by that?
So a lot of it is that the head cocking thing. I think that shows a lot of character. But then you photograph the same species but different individuals,
Yes.
You'll find that some of them, for example, they'll stay really still and they really will investigate. They'll stay still, they'll groom themselves in front of you, and they'll be quite patient with you. And then others, they see their reflection in the lens and they really just go for it.
Yes.
So they like jump at the lens.
Yeah, they jump
Yeah.
at the lens, or,
Yeah.
they do not stay still at all, which sometimes could be linked with their behavior. I've never seen so much character and personality.
So much variation in behavior
and-
within the same species when they're confronted with the camera, right?
And with an arthropod, like with birds and mammals or reptiles and amphibians, it's much bigger, and they do have a higher level of thinking than other organisms. And so it's understandable to just notice that they have different personalities. But then with an 8-legged creature that doesn't really have a high level functioning brain, that's very interesting to me, and it's quite exciting.
But I mean, I've also read some interesting papers on Porsches, for
yeah.
example, where they're shown to have an amazing amount of reasoning ability.
Yeah. More than me.
Which for something that size
Yeah.
is astounding. These spiders they can maze solve, they can count up to a certain number, possibly 5, they think. They can basically, negotiate their way through things and problem solve.
Yeah.
And that's for something that size, that's amazing. So that's and you see to some extent that behavior in quite a few of the jumping spiders. So it's quite amazing to watch them operating. Yeah.
I do think jumping spiders are kind of the more widely accepted spiders in the general public, I would say, because of their kind of cute eyes, and you describe the head tilt as well.
I mean, I call them the gateway spider, because I think even if someone's arachnophobic, sometimes I can say, well, have a look at, these photos of these spiders, and I'll say, look, they're actually quite cute, aren't they? And they'll say, oh, actually, yeah, okay. And then they might actually become more interested, or at least less afraid.
So following this discussion on the misconceptions about spiders, but I think there's one question people may not even know to ask is whether spiders are insects.
If you see a 6-legged spider, that's not an insect. That's still a spider. That's just lost 2 legs. But generally, apart from the legs, it's generally the body plan of the spider and how that compares to an insect. So an insect, I guess the easiest one to think of would be an ant. So an ant has 3 segments. So you have the head, the thorax, and then the abdomen. And also you have a pair of antennae as well, and 2 large compound eyes. With spiders, it's different. Spiders have 8 eyes, most of them, sometimes 6, sometimes 4, sometimes 2, sometimes none, with the cave-dwelling spiders. But all of them share the same body plan, which is that they only have 2 segments. You have the head, and you have the abdomen. And then in between, you have the 8 legs there.
And they come in the arachnid family rather than the insect family. And the arachnid family is quite wide, because it extends to some organisms in the sea, and to the scorpions and harvestmen and things like that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, when you describe it like that, it does remind me of the drawings I did when I was a kid. I wouldn't draw like 3 segments for the spiders. So that kind of makes sense, I guess. I wanted to talk a little bit about your experiences, and I know you guys have a lot of field experiences as well. Do you have any very just unforgettable, one-in-a-lifetime moments in the field interacting with these jumping spiders?
I mean, obviously, finding very rare species is very exciting, right? Because, it's something that you've been looking out for a long time. I mean, I have definitely had wonderful experiences where the spiders decided to explore, me.
So they just literally jump on you?
Yeah, they'll come onto my gear, then they'll come onto my hands, and then they'll come up, and then they might sort of pop onto my head and around my face, and just have a little bit of an explore. And that's fine, as long as I know that I can get them safely off. I'm quite happy to let them have an explore.
I guess one of them would be finding the caterpillar mimic jumping spider.
Oh yes,
that's the first time that I found it.
Yes.
So it was first introduced in a book by Dixon Wong. So he authored a field guide for spiders in Hong Kong in 2017. And I bought that, and then the final page of the book was this unidentified spider. And he said that looked like a caterpillar. It might be mimicking a caterpillar, but he said, currently we don't know what it is. I did see it once in 2018, but that was really, I didn't have my camera, I just had my phone, so I wasn't able to properly observe that that spider. But then later on in 2020, I managed to find it again. And this time with a proper camera and a macro lens, I was just zoom in and shoot this spider. And it really is very, very different from all the other jumping spiders in Hong Kong. Like it doesn't move like a jumping spider. It barely jumps, which is weird for a jumping spider.
Basically, they move quite fast along the
But they still kind of mimic the movement of a caterpillar.
Well, they don't inch like that, but it's just like that.
And sometimes it's actually really difficult to tell them apart from some of the smaller caterpillars. You know, they have the very long shape and they're very, very fluffy.
I imagine it was pretty exciting to find something that wasn't described yet.
When I found it the second time, it had already been described. So it was named after the author of The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Eric Carle. It had a name when I found it with a proper camera, but then it still didn't change how cool and magical that experience was of seeing something this small and then actually be able to zoom that close and shoot it up front. It was really, really cool, really, really memorable.
Yeah, I have to say, actually, I think been the first person to record a few jumping spider species on camera in Hong Kong. And that, of course, is really, really exciting. When you get there and you're like, I do not recognize this spider. And then I'm checking with all the people who know, and they're saying, we do not recognize that spider either. And that's a very exciting experience to have, is to see things. I mean, even there was a spider I saw 4 weeks ago, which I threw into the group and said, does anyone know what this one is? And no one is at this point, I think. No one knows what it is. So that's quite amazing to come across, to be the first person to, to record and come across a particular spider species is amazing. I think particularly the ones that I'm coming across, which are not yet identified, are quite small. They're less easy to spot, and so I came across one which has now been named as I'm sorry, my Latin pronunciation was Quingatus wulan, or Chingatus.
Qing.
Okay.
I'm not too sure the pronunciation of that one as well. But.
I'm not sure about the pronunciation. I always call it Quinn, but it might be Chingatus wulan. So this was a little spider, and it's quite unusual because it's got a little dip on the head, so it looks almost like it's got cat ears where two of the eyes are placed, and it's very, very tiny. And I saw it quite a few times before Marco was actually able to also find one and get identification started on it. It's pretty amazing to see a spider like that and to watch it go from being an undiscovered species to a named one.
So I wanted to also talk about some photos that you guys took. So I prepared a few here. So what kind of species is this, and do you have any interesting stories behind this photograph?
This is a miniature crab spider in Hong Kong, because even as the adults grow, they don't grow that big. And a habit that the juveniles have and the adults have as well is that they'll find a hole in a leaf, and then they'll construct this layer of silk in between that hole. So
how big is the hole? Is it?
It's tiny.
It's like that big.
Marco is a genius at finding these. I'm always looking, and I'm like, I can't see.
This thing is a juvenile, so it's not big.
Oh, wow.
So it's not the biggest size that they get, but then this thing is just still like less than 5 millimeters long. Spiders do utilize leaves, and they do use leaves to construct their dens, but not in this way. Well, very few in this way. And I tried with many individuals, and then I finally got to, on that trip, that this was the shot that I wanted for quite a long time. And I've never seen one make the den itself. So how does the spider go from this and then just go around the leaf and just building that? Because sometimes the lines aren't, well, this is quite far away from this. So how does this guy go from here to here? But then I've never seen one make the silk den itself. So maybe something in the future.
Yeah.
But it's still a really cool structure. It's one of the smallest structures I've come across in Hong Kong, but it's still one of the coolest things I've seen.
Was this a difficult species to find, or not really?
They're actually everywhere, but they're just that tiny. I think, as Sasha pointed out, that
it's difficult to spot them.
Yeah, I really do have to look. Like after I found the first one, I was looking through like each hole of a leaf and just make sure that none of them was plugged in with the spider in it.
You just see this guy just looking at leaves really closely.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll see my eyes crossing together.
And I also wanted to talk about Sasha's photo. which I think really displays the kind of cuteness of jumping spiders really well. Do you have any story behind this photo?
So this is actually a really cute jumping spider. It's called a Sila Collingwoodi. It's a boy. And so what he's got is he's got very fluffy palps, and he's got the legs have got these little sort of pom-pom sort of hairs. And so this is what he uses to display to the females. He's also very pretty. Because he's got this beautiful blue, and you can see a little bit through there. He's also a beautiful orange on the back. So he's an incredibly pretty jumping spider. But he's also very interesting because you can see, you know, when he's going to start displaying to a female, he's got all these things he can wave at her to attract her attention, including those lovely white palps that he can drum those, and he can wave his legs up in a little dancing display. So a lot of my spider photos, I do try and go for cute, because I do think that for a lot of people who are scared of spiders, it's really nice for them to be able to see that actually they can be quite adorable. I mean, look, he's got his little pouts like this, you know, right? And then he's got his cute little, you know, legs that he can do the waving with. So I think this is quite a good spider to, you know, represent jumping spiders in terms of the cuteness levels.
This is one of the most colourful and charismatic spiders in Hong Kong.
So are they the most like kind of likely to interact or be curious about your lens or something?
The males do tend to think that your lens is a reflection of another male, and they often want to come and check it out and see if it's a rival. They're actually an interesting spider because they actually tend to follow ants around because they're trying to find sort of food essentially in the ant nests. So they actually they're known in a way as an ant mimic spider as well, because they actually try to, when they've got their arms straight up, they're trying to mimic the antennae of the ants as well. So they're very interesting. They're very cute. They're very, very colourful.
Yeah, and also I like how you focused a lot on the eyes as well, which is a really defining characteristic.
Yes, I think it's good to see the eyes.
I think people say they feel connection with the photo more when you get in eye contact with the subject. And the good thing with jumping spiders is because their front eyes are so big, you're able to establish that connection between the viewer and the subject itself. And I guess the big eyes, they're kind of like animation characters.
Yes.
So that does help a lot.
Yes, that's right.
If you had to pick like the most unique feature, what kind of feature would you pick?
That's a lot.
Well, I mean, I think behaviourally they're also really interesting, as well as being really cute. They're so interesting in the way that they interact with each other and with the world in general. It's really fascinating watching them moving along and what they do as they're moving along. And I know that that behavioural studies have shown, as I said, that they're actually very intelligent for their size. We could go further in terms of studying the behaviour because it is a really interesting factor.
I think there's been studies on that spiders sleep in different ways, so they don't just lie down, so they hang down as they sleep, especially with some jumping spiders. We do get some in Hong Kong that I've seen doing this behaviour. There were studies on spiders with different personalities, and there was one on spiders that dream.
Yes, that's right. I was going to say the REM.
The REM sleep. Yeah,
yes.
There was, I think it was an American study that was studying jumping spiders engaging in REM sleep and actually dreaming. So they share a lot more human qualities than most other arthropods on the planet, which is really, really exciting because they just fit on your thumb.
Yes.
But the personality, the behavior, and the diversity as well. There's a lot more to be found across the world, and even in Hong Kong, because like Sasha said, we keep finding more and more new things that people haven't seen before.
That's right. And how they fit into their environments as well. I mean, they're different shapes to fit into different types of environments, or they've got different behaviours for where they, tend to be. Are they in swamps? Are they in grasslands? Are they more tree dwelling? And then you find all the behaviour is affected by all those factors.
I was wondering though, have you guys ever observed any behaviours that were newly described to science or no one else in the world has ever seen before?
I think I've seen one. Okay. I don't know if it's academically published, but from what I searched, it isn't. So we were on this trip to Lai Chi Wo, and we were exploring the shoreline. And before that, I already knew that there's a species of jumping spider that actually only lives in the intertidal zone.
Yes.
They lives on a rocky shore. And so I was able to find a couple of those individuals. And then I was shooting this individual, and then it just zipped into a crevice. And I'm like, okay, that's it. No more photography. Let's move along. And then it came out with like a little brown ball. And I was like, oh, okay, it's eating. So, okay, you're coming about to eat. Let's take more shots. And as I took the shot, I realized that what it was eating was a crab. I expected that they would eat some of these like marine fauna, but then I wasn't expecting like a baby crab. And so I went online and I searched spider eating crab, and instead it gave me king crab. The king crab you get in the restaurants. And then I went on to some Google Scholar, and I looked up spider eating crab, and there was no mention of it.
Right.
Well, spiders been observed eating snakes, eating lizards, eating frogs, eating fish, sometimes birds. But I think this might be the first time that somebody has recorded a spider eating a crab.
Right.
Which was really, really fascinating to me. That I did not know this was part of their diet.
Yeah, that's really interesting. But it also kind of makes sense because they live in the intertidal zone
exactly.
as well.
I was thinking like some of the marine isopods, like the intertidal isopods, because I guess they're not as sturdy and hard to penetrate as a crab. But seeing something sturdy with such a hard shell as a crab being eaten, that's really, really surprising to me.
I think one of the things I have seen, which is which was quite interesting, is that in fact the silos, which the photos of, what I have observed sometimes is that they like to chase after the ants, because I think they want to get to the ants' nests to see if they can go in and get juvenile sort of ants to eat and things. And I have seen them on a number of occasions, and I could be wrong about this, but I haven't seen anyone talking about it, but I've watched them. If the ants are resting, they get impatient, because sometimes the ants get tired and they'll have a little sort of group sort of session together, and they'll all rest and have some grooming, and they bite the butts of the ants. Right? To get the ants moving.
Just move it.
Move it. Come on, let's get to the food source
bring me
here.
to the nest.
I mean, I've only ever managed to get that on a series of photos once. And they go, and then the ant's like, what the?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really, really interesting. And it kind of shows how big their personalities are as well. Obviously, you guys have so much field experience already. What would you say is the most difficult thing you encountered when you were trying to find these jumping spiders?
Termites.
Termites,
You were there on that shoot, right, with the termites? The Night of the Termites.
When there was like a horror movie.
It was a horror movie, because like we had all our lights, and the termites had basically risen.
Oh.
Right? They were attracted to our lights as we're trying to shoot. And so they were all over us. And of course, their wings, in summer, I have to say, I'm sorry, everybody, but you get very sweaty, all right, when you're out in the field. And so you're basically completely wet through, and all the wings on the termites were sticking to us. Yeah. And then the termites were basically crawling through our clothing and essentially drowning, I think, to be honest, at least with me, because I discovered quite a lot of dead termites at the end of the day for that one. Yeah. And they were like in our faces, they were all over.
Very intimate.
Yeah. I mean, it was really, not that it's a hazard, but just sometimes when you're out there, it's actually difficult. Depending on what else is out there and flying around, it's actually quite difficult to get at the subject.
Yeah, it is a little bit distracting.
It becomes a hazard when you accidentally snort one in.
Yeah.
Just some extra protein.
Yeah. Also mud. Like just sometimes when we're out in fields and things and it's wet and there's a ton of mud and we're starting to sloop into the mud, and we're starting to slip over on the mud, and that can be interesting. I think there was another sort of occasion where we were right in the middle of a very muddy field, and we were sort of ankle deep in mud and trying to sloop our way through it. That was all in pursuit of particular species
of like a really tiny spider.
Yeah, a really really tiny spider. So
and especially with macrophotography, like most people they use tripods, but then we're using shooting handheld. The only stability you're getting is with your legs, and so if you're on a very slippery surface, and so or you're you're stuck in mud and just trying to move that.
Or you're leaning over the edge of a cliff while someone's holding onto you because you're trying to get something because there's something on a leaf, and the only way you can get to it is by actually leaning slightly, and the other person's kind of having to hold you as you're leaning over the edge.
Yeah. Well, that's why you need a group of people.
Yes, you do need a group of people sometimes to get photos.
And also sometimes comes down to the subjects as well, because like you said, many of them are different personalities, and some of them just don't cooperate.
Yes.
And it goes from a 5-minute shoot to like 30 minutes.
For people who are just in the general public and not really experienced with interacting with spiders, I think it is hard to find without having any knowledge on where they can be found and what kind of habitats they like. So what kind of habitats do jumping spiders kind of prefer, and where was the most unexpected place you found jumping spiders in?
I guess you're the expert on jumping spider microhabitat, because you have your favorite spots to go to.
Well, I mean, I think it's if you've got water railings and trees, so catchwaters essentially in the country parks, you will usually find a huge number of different types of insects, including the jumping spiders, because the ants are using those as highways. Everything else is coming along. You've got caterpillars. They can move along the surface more easily. You've got everything coming along, and then you've got the spiders going, okay, a buffet for me. Right? So then that's a really good place to find them. And then obviously, as I said, as we've said, they're in all sorts of habitats because they're intertidal. There's some that specialize in being in very swampy areas. There's some that specialize in being in more grasslands. There are some which prefer being on particular trees. So it's just a matter of just looking. But I think if you want an easy, fast fix, the railings is the place. Right. Because you will see an awful lot of spiders who are basically, picking up what they can from everything else using the highway of the railing.
Yeah, I see a lot of your photos are also on these railings.
That's right.
Highways
because it's just very easy to spot particular species on there. It's not all railings. You really have to have a nice. I call it the trifecta. You need the water, you need the trees, or lots of bush. Sort of and undergrowth around, and then you've got the railing, which is relatively uninterrupted. That is a fantastic location usually to spot spiders as well as everything else. It's a microecology in that it has actually been studied as a particular sort of phenomenon in Hong Kong.
That's really interesting because it is a man-made structure, not really natural to their environment, but they kind of utilizing it.
I think the ants started because the ants just realized that they can move fast along these areas, and then everything else is like, oh wait, I can move fast along there as well. And then
or I can eat them.
Yeah, as I said, then all the predators are like, okay.
What about you, Marco? What was the kind of most unexpected place you found jumping spiders in?
I guess it would be the intertidal one, and then there's also one on the mangrove. Because there were records of a particular spider in Mai Po, which isn't really forest habitat; it's more of a wetland marsh habitat. And then later on, I think we were just stopping by a mangrove before meeting up with you that night.
I remember where you were. Yeah.
And it was low tide, so we were able to go deep in the mangrove and look. And then we just found this male jumping spider, and it was the same one that was found in Mai Po. And again, this time it's in a mangrove, and for the time that I've been out in the past 5 years, I have not seen this spider in any other habitat other than a mangrove.
I haven't yet seen them because it's quite sweaty work.
And the mangrove is like tricky to navigate through. So
is it just one species that utilize these mangroves, or there's a few?
I think there was one time where I decided, let me just try to record as much how many species of spiders am I seeing in this one mangrove. And then in the end, I think it was like a 30-minute walk. And I saw at least 5 species, not individuals, at least 5 species, just utilizing the mangroves. And some of these were like a bit more inland species. You'll find them near like grasslands and forests as well. But now some of them are now in mangroves as well. I suspect there to be more spiders utilizing this habitat. But and I think there's studies in other countries where they show that a lot of spiders do live in mangroves, and there is a great diversity of them. But in Hong Kong, I'd say I can only say at least 5 for now, and then maybe there's more than that.
I mean, I think it's an understudied.
Yeah, it's a very like unexpected habitat for spiders to be, because because you would expect spider abundance or spider numbers to get lower and lower and lower as you reach the ocean, because they're more of an inland animal. So to find them in this like little intersection between land and sea, and you're still seeing that much great diversity, it was really surprising to me.
In my mind, spiders kind of like, when they kind of touch water, it is a bit difficult for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting with those intertidal spiders, because, what are they doing when the tide gets higher, right? Are they using the bubble technique and sitting inside the crevices, or are they coming up? Again, it's not as clear what all of them are doing.
I think one family, one group of spiders, they're not jumping spiders, but they do live in the intertidal zone. So what they do, they'll find like a really deep rock crevice. And then, so during the low tide, they'll come out, they'll feed. And when the high tide comes, I think they somehow they can sense it. They'll go back into the crevice and they'll use silk to make a wall. So the water doesn't penetrate their little den. So they can stay completely dry when the water level comes up, and then when the water level comes down, they come out again. So I think that's one tactic that they use.
But who knows if the jumpers are doing that as well, because of the web production. So it's all so interesting, and there's so much we still don't know about them.
Talking about diversity, you talked a little bit about that. In Hong Kong, would you say that diversity is high compared to other places, and why would you say that?
I'd say it's high, and it's getting higher because we have more eyes out in the field. We have Sasha, we have lots of people in the Facebook group, and we have our friends going out quite frequently. And there's this one location that we frequent. I think the first 5 times we visited that location, 4 times we found a new record for Hong Kong.
Wow.
So that number is just going to get higher and higher and higher. And there's much more to be discovered. New species records for Hong Kong, for China even, or maybe even new to science. So right now, it's still high, but then there has that potential of getting much and much higher.
Because we haven't explored everything. There are still a lot of species out there to be discovered.
We talked about like the different places jumping spiders can be found. What kind of role do spiders play in ecosystems, and how important are they in certain ecosystems?
So spiders are predators, they're miniature predators. And so if you think about the food chain, they're not that high up in the food chain, but they do help to control a lot of the prey population, so that it doesn't just overexplode, as well as providing food for larger predators and for parasites as well. And so you have, for example, you have wasps paralyzing spiders with their stings and then bringing them back to feed their young. Sometimes even laying the eggs on the spider. And we've seen spiders where the spider's still growing, but you have this wasp larvae attached to the spider and then sucking its innards out as it grows.
Wow, so it's literally sucking the life out of the spider.
It really is.
You've got someone who's now looking very closely at wasps at Hong Kong U, who is like finding all sorts of interesting stuff. And this was an interesting interaction.
Was it a previously recorded interaction between these two species?
I think it has been noted in other countries, but not in Hong Kong previously. And the question is whether it's the same type of wasp, or is it specific to Hong Kong wasp? Because I just got a photo of the larvae coming out of the Cyclosa spider's abdomen. Wow. And so when he saw that, he was like, wait, I want that. So I said, oh, well, actually, I think I'm seeing instances of this on a number of occasions. So he then basically went and collected 5 of the wasp larvae, which then cocooned itself.
Common occurrence.
It's a common occurrence, but it's not something you notice because I wouldn't have thought anything about it except for the fact that I then had a wasp expert who was like, wait, what is that? Right? So that's always a really interesting interaction to have.
Yeah, and that's also why I feel like photography is quite important in this sense as well, because you're documenting something that maybe you're not the expert in wasps, but someone might see it and they go like, that's something new. Like,
that's right, exactly.
In its core, photography is observation.
Yes.
And that's how you kickstart a lot of the studies going on. So,
and the more people who get out there and photograph, the better.
I also wanted to know whether, because we were talking about how what role they played in the ecosystem. You said they were like predators. So I know not a lot about kind of their distribution or spider population is known yet, but through your kind of experience or observation, is there anything that might potentially threaten spider populations?
Climate change. I'm already noticing that over the years that I have been watching the big orb weavers, the golden orb weavers, the Nipilia pilipes, I'm noticing less and less of those at the moment, and that's partially due, I think, to heat, to more rain, and just to the development of certain areas where they haven't got the places to string their webs anymore.
I think there was a study in the late 90s to 2000s. I think it was by a master's student at HKU, and she was studying the seasonality of spiders in Hong Kong in different habitats. The boom period for spiders is shifting every year.
Yes.
So usually we would say maybe April to May, and then sometimes it changes depending on like how the winter goes.
And I think sometimes you're seeing two lots coming out rather than one lot coming out because it's staying warmer for longer.
What do you mean by like two lots at the same time?
The breeding process occurring twice in 1 year instead of once in a year because it's warmer. Right, because it's warmer for longer.
I mean, I can see how that could be problematic because that would mean like a double in their population.
And then whether they can survive over the winter period as well when they've come out earlier than they would otherwise have done so.
And in Hong Kong, we do get species that only breed in the winter as well. So what happens when the winter becomes too much like summer or too much like spring? So how will these species adapt? Because it's not a big population, and so that is a bit worrying as well.
I mean, it was fantastic. We've got the country parks, but you're seeing encroachment on them. You are seeing programs where they're wanting to make more facilities in the country parks. But the trouble is, where are they going to make those facilities? Is it going to be on top of areas which have, important populations? Because one thing that doesn't seem to be taken into account is like just records of what's in those areas. I mean, sometimes the studies are done at the wrong time of year and you can't see what's there. I mean, obviously it's really important if you've got a resource like iNaturalist to check that, but I don't think that is being done. And then they're not going to find that there are actually populations of things which need that area more than you need to put facilities on top of them. So that's something I find very worrying. And then you just generally find all the wetland areas that have been taken for development as well. And of course, the wetlands are absolutely crucial to so many species in Hong Kong, including a large number of spiders. So when you've got the space that they can be in disappearing, and then you've got this climate change factor coming along, I mean, worldwide we have seen a drop in insect populations, a hugely worrying, like 70% of some species just disappearing. So that's going to happen here as well. And then how is that going to affect us?
I mean, it is pretty concerning, and I feel like kind of this insect population declining is not getting as much attention as maybe
it should be.
As maybe other species like polar bears.
Yes, that's right. No one's as worried about the insects because they're just like, oh great, no more wasps, right? But the thing is, when you start looking at how important, I mean, wasps are an incredibly important species because not only do they assist farmers with predating on crop eating sort of insects, but they're also pollinators, and so they're doing pollination. So to have a decline in the species not only of bees but of other pollinators like wasps is very, very problematic. And of course the spiders come into that as well because they are again a species that predates upon things that crop farmers require to grow, and it's going to be a really big problem for us in terms of our food production in the future around the world as we see more and more of these things decline. And in Hong Kong and in China, it's going to be an issue.
Especially Hong Kong, since you're situated so close to the tropics, that heat is just going to become hotter and hotter and hotter. And even with species they're already tolerant to
Yes.
this heat. How much can they tolerate is also a question.
It just makes me realize how much still is needed to be studied
Yeah.
in order to make a better
Yes.
informed decision.
I think everyone needs to be doing ecology.
Even if you're not doing ecology, you should at least
But be like me, and be a citizen scientist, and you can do your own sort of observations through photography and loading, sort of, and telling people where things are and what you're seeing.
ending more on a happy note, I guess.
That was a bit of a doom and
That was a little bit depressing. If you were to choose one favorite jumping spider species.
Oh no.
That is
You
the
said this was
hardest
going to be a happy note.
I'm
said this was
sorry,
going to be a
I'm
happy
sorry.
note.
This is the hardest question all the time
Oh my god.
for every interview we have had on the show. Which species would you choose, and could you describe a little bit about what makes them unique to your eyes?
Does it have to be in Hong Kong?
It doesn't have to be. I'll let you have that.
Wow.
Because I cycle through this problem every time when I go, oh, this is my favorite. Oh, this is my favorite.
So you
oh,
have
this
like
one's my
different
favorite.
phases.
Like I love the Sila Collingwoodies because they're so colourful and characterful. I love the what's called the Aurora bidenticulata because again they're beautifully coloured. They're absolutely adorable. They're so cute. I love a species called the Cacalus, right, which is quite a big jumping spider. But they have the fluffiest palps, and I just go ooh about how fluffy how fluffy they are. So I love all of those ones for that reason, and I love the caterpillar mimic because they're so unique and adorable as well. I mean, I find it very difficult.
Said just one, Sasha.
You said like 5.
Yeah, I know. So I
You
really
broke the rule again.
I know I broke the rule. But I'm saying it's very difficult to decide which is my absolute favorite because I've got sort of for different reasons.
So each kind of species or group has their defining feature that makes it so special.
So cute.
Yeah.
Or so interesting for behavior or just you cannot pin me down. I'm sorry. I mean, okay, if you were going to say a spider that finally made me get the big camera, probably would be the Sila because I wasn't getting enough detail on the smaller cameras and I really wanted to see them in more detail. So maybe...
Is it because of how small they are?
Yes, because they are extremely small. They're like sort of, when they're juveniles, they're about 2 to 3 millimeters. And then as adults, I don't think they get bigger than 5.
And especially with juveniles, they're small, but then when you photograph them with camera, as you did many times in your posts, you'll find that they're actually way more iridescent than the adults as well.
Yes.
So
they have beautiful iridescence on them as well. Yeah.
I'm just prolonging my answer, isn't it?
You're just loving Marco.
Yeah. I'll split it into 2. One is like appearance-wise, and one is behavior-wise, just to save myself the pain.
Fine.
So appearance-wise, I have to say Maratus, the peacock jumping spiders in Australia. Yes. Each species has their own different decoration, and each species has their own different dance. I think there's been studies on showing how you can actually identify a species or group species by how they dance. And they're just really, really colorful, really, really beautiful.
They are stunning, and they actually have an unusual factor where they can they basically, as they lift their abdomen up, they can actually extend. They've got little flaps that kind of lie, and they can extend the size of the abdomen to make it look even bigger and more colorful to try and attract the females. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing to see them.
Really, really cool.
Yeah,
and some of those patterns are just they look like ancient, like carving. They don't look like something from nature. They look something like people have carved out in like the Mayan ruins and stuff. So that's the aesthetic side. If you say behavioral side, one thing I'm interested in is the ant mimicking jumping spiders. Not a Sila Collingwood, but there's a particular group of jumping spiders that have evolved to look like ants.
Yes.
So the bodies have constricted in a way that it resembles an ant. And they behave like ants as well, so they really do like wave their hands, the front legs erratically to mimic the antenna. But when they get approached by a predator, their behavior does change depending on who they interact with. Sometimes they behave like an ant.
Yeah, if they see the ants, they behave like the ants.
Yeah.
If they see something that's going to predate them.
Yeah, it really depends on the situation and who they're interacting with, because ants they come in large colonies. Some of them get aggressive. They bite as well, and they have stings. So it is an evolutionary advantage to mimic such a dangerous organism. Let's say dangerous with quotations. And what's more interesting is that it's been found that within a species, they actually change their appearance as they grow.
Yes.
So the juveniles would mimic ant species A, and then the adults will mimic ant species B.
Because of the size differential.
Yeah, and they behave differently as well. Behaviour-wise, that's a very interesting one. And very recently, I went on a trip to Sri Lanka last year, and I saw this, like, it's a mimic jumping spider, but then it was not mimicking an ant. And so the abdomen had this blue iridescence, and it was waving it so erratically. And you had the mandibles have this like little banding at the tip of it, which looked to me like a wasp more than an ant, like a parasitic wasp. And so far, I think that is the only spider that I know of that mimics a parasitic wasp and not an ant, but it belongs in that same group. So how did that one species evolve to mimic a wasp? Very recently, I sent that video off to an expert in the US, and he's currently analyzing that video to see how similar the beats at the abdomen, how similar is that to the wing, how the wings beat on the wasp. So it's a really, really fascinating group of animals to look at.
I mean, I think mimicry in the spiders is amazing. So many of the spiders mimic other insects, including amongst the jumpers.
And it also goes into such detail in their mimicry as well.
It's
really surprising.
The level that they go to is phenomenal.
Lastly, for all of the listeners who are viewing this and joining us on this exploration of spiders, do you have any advice for someone who wants to try and start exploring jumping spiders or spiders in general?
Follow Sasha's Instagram.
If they want to find things, then just go to the catchwaters, have a look along the railings. You'll find lots and lots of interesting spiders as well as other insects. You can start off on a phone because, as I've said, the phone cameras have improved quite tremendously. And then if you find that this is a lasting passion, start moving up towards the camera. But definitely, I mean, I would like to encourage everyone to do this because it will help. The more observations we have of things, the more we know, the more we're able to find out, the more we're able to protect.
And I would say, no matter if you have a camera or not, really do go out, because it goes back to what I did as a kid. I was watching documentaries and then going out and actually seeing some of the animals in person is a really different experience, and you do get more of a feeling out of it than just looking at on the big screen. Go out and explore. Don't be afraid to go out to different places and just really be careful about surroundings. When I say careful, not like as like a danger thing, but really do notice what's around you. And you'll find something that you would not believe is of this world.
And I think you will find the mental health benefits from that as well will be tremendous, because being outside and experiencing the outdoors and experiencing nature is phenomenally good for us mentally as well.
And the good thing about Hong Kong, or just macrophotography in general, is that it's a very small community. So say you've taken that first step, you've looked at what's around, you want to know more. There's lots of people you can contact.
And ask questions and come and join on expeditions. And, you know, it's lots of fun. There's lots of different groups and activities that you can join in with to explore your new passion.
Thank you very much, Marco and Sasha, for joining us today. We had a really, really deep dive into spiders and all sorts of things and experiences they've had in the field. I hope you've enjoyed this kind of amazing adventure to discover the surprisingly vast world of spiders, especially when it's such a small creature. Though you may not have fallen in love with spiders yet, but we hope that you're at least now a little less afraid of spiders, and perhaps you can become the next adventurer to discover a new species that no one has ever seen before. So stay tuned for our upcoming episode if you want to learn more about other incredible species or the dedicated people studying them behind the scenes. For the next episode, here's a hint, we'll be talking about a very different group of animals that's very common but also more diverse than you think: earthworms. So see you next time.
That's cool.
Yeah.